It's the weekend, y'all, and you know what that means. It means it's Classic Tabletop RPG Friday right here, sliding right back into our Classic Traveler series. Hey, welcome back, y'all, for my elites who are coming back. What's up? And for those of you where it's the first time that you have discovered this little gem in the YouTube landscape, let me tell you what you just came to. Aight? This is RPG Elite. This is where I focus, your boy Servant. I focus on putting the RP back into RPG. And how I do that, my own unique way, is by giving you tools, tips, and tutorials, and real talk about the tabletop RPG space and culture. Now, if you're going through this series and you're liking what you see, and you're thinking you might want to get into some of the classic stuff, or maybe you just want to pull out some stuff and play it all over again, but you got rid of your game back in the day and you're like, man, why did I do that? I really like this game then. Well, down in the description below, there's going to be your opportunity to go ahead and remedy that problem. If you want a PDF, if you want hardcover, got you covered. Down in the description, all kinds of links, and you'll be ready and set to go. Let's get into this Space Combat Part 2. Then on the other side, I got the question of the vid, so let's do it and roll 'em. Though putting together a data card isn't sexy, it's an absolute requirement before getting into spaceship combat in Classic Traveler. Now, I've already done a video on that right before I did this one, and I know it's not all that exciting, but you got to learn how to do it if you're going to be doing spaceship combat in Classic Traveler. Also, just as a reminder, this is the Classic Traveler starter set. This is the Classic Traveler that I am going over. This is not books 1, 2, and 3, and there are some things in books 1, 2, and 3 when it comes to spaceship combat that is not in the Classic Traveler starter set. So things like vector and gravity. It's not included in the starter set, so we're not going to be going over that in spaceship combat here. Another thing, just as a little side note, in my video when I said there's one thing wrong with Classic Traveler, what I'm talking about is in the starter set. So if it's in Classic books 1, 2, and 3, that's fine, but I've been showing the starter set and also said in the very first video that that is what we were going to do and cover because that's the version that I have. Details, y'all. Details. Let's move on. So in today's video, I'm going to use the Phineas Javelin as a ship that has been accosted by a pirated scout courier. Now for this space combat, I will assume that the most basic software programs are owned by each ship, which are target, jump, maneuver, evade, and return fire. And I allowed 2 extra combat programs for each, which was launch and predict for the scout courier, and anti-missile and auto evade for the Phineas Javelin. That's just for example purposes as we go through this spaceship combat. Each turn in space combat is 1,000 seconds. I don't know how they came up with that number, but oh well. That ends up being about 17 minutes, give or take. In the vast majority of space combat, there are only going to be 2 sides. And in Classic Traveler, these 2 sides are identified as the native and the intruder, though you could still use the more universal terms of attacker and defender or PC or NBC if appropriate. If 2 different ships are used, as in this case, and they have names, then you can use the names of the ship. So for our example here, that's exactly what we're going to do, because I'm using the ship that came on the data card that I used in the previous video. And I'm just going to take out a couple of the programs and we're just going to run like that. In spaceship combat, the maneuver drive is what a ship will use to move. Now, you still have your jump drive, and the only way that that's going to come into play is if you get a real bad spot and you really need to get out of Dodge right now. Otherwise, maneuver drive is what you're going to use all day. The first thing to determine is where each ship is located in reference to each other. Now this can be represented as markers on a piece of lined notebook paper if that's what you're using. You're going all the way back old school. Miniatures on the battle map using squares or hexes, or like what I'm doing right here within a VTT. By the way, virtual tabletops can be used in a live setting. I don't know if you guys know that, and there's people who do that. They use this as their tabletop. They got a screen and the whole thing, and they move things around on the screen. I don't know if you knew that, but that's the deal. So what we got here is we've got the two ships that are going to be in this combat in relation to one another. We've got the Phineas Javelin right here, and we got the Suleiman Type S Scout Courier over chair. Now, ships move in range bands measuring 10,000 kilometers. Now, they can move forward, they can move backwards, but they cannot move sideways. If we measure it out here between these two, looks like we're 60,000 kilometers away from each other. Makes that simple. To determine the range, you count the number of line rows on a piece of notebook paper or a square or a hex or whatever. A range of 1 means that the target is 1 space away, 10,000 kilometers. A range of 2 is 2 spaces away, 20,000 kilometers, etc. The velocity of a starship equals what it was moving in the previous turn. Now, if no one moved, if you're getting into a situation like you got right here, where they just see one another, then that's going to be determined by your referee. Each turn, a ship can change its velocity up to its maneuver drive rating. So for example here, let's say we go to the Phineas Javelin here. It's got jump 2, thrust 2, which means 2 Gs. And let's say, for the sake of argument, that's what it's moving at right now. It's moving at 2G. Sees this Suleiman Type S over here and decides that it wants to accelerate. So it can accelerate by 2G forward or 2G backwards, or 1G really, if it still wants to keep going. It's possible to board a ship with a disabled maneuver drive if the boarding ship is in the same area. So same range band, same square, hex, or whatever. And obviously, they slow down to move at the same velocity of the ship that doesn't have a maneuver drive. So the first thing we're going to do is determine laser fire. And the first one that gets to fire its laser fire is the one who is the aggressor, the attacker, in this case, the intruder. And the intruder would be the Suleiman Type S Scout Courier. Since this is the attacker in the situation, they will commit to laser fire first. And the turrets will fire at the target ship that they designate, and there's only one here, which is the Phineas. All lasers in a turret fire at the same target, while all other turret lasers, if they own any, he only has one, so that's just it, can fire at a different target if they have the appropriate software program. They need multi-target for that. He doesn't have that, so that's not going to happen. If the player has any more ships, and they don't, but let's say you're in a situation when there are multiple ships on the map, they determine what ships they are attacking. After the targets have been acquired, the next step is to calculate all of the attack DMs that are applicable. This is normally from some kind of software program, though it may also include a gunner skill with a software program as down here. As I said, if we go over here, I want to move this over. So if we go over here, Scout Courier, we're going to look at the computer programs that are running or that it has. So like I said, it has target, jump, maneuver, evade, return, fire. Then the 2 extra, which are launch and predict. So it has predict 1. If we look at the attack DMs here, that is going to give it a +1 to hit. So we're going to add that to the cumulative die modifiers as we move through this. So we know we have predict 1. And since it doesn't have really anything else, that's all we're going to go with. Now we're going to calculate all of the defense DMs, and this is for the target. Now this can be, again, from some kind of software, or as you can see down here on the bottom, it could be because of range, or it could be because of obscuring sand for sandcasters that have been launched, things like that. So in this situation here, the Phineas Javelin, if we go, and I'm going to move that up, and we look at the computer programs, Phineas Javelin has auto evade. Now maneuver evade wouldn't be that good in this, so we would just switch it over to auto evade for this. And the Phineas Javelin can run 3 programs at the same time. And if you look back at the Scout, it can only run 2. It has 2 and 4. What programs were they running before this whole brouhaha started? We're going to assume a couple of things. We're going to assume that the Scout Courier here was running target and was going to run predict. And so it basically pulled up. So it stopped its maneuver evade program, switched that out so it could do a predict and it could do a target. Now target, it just allows you to do any kind of laser fire, and predict is going to give you that +1 DM. That's what we're going with there. In terms of the Phineas Javelin and what it had going at the time, we're just going to assume this, by the way, since it can have 3 programs running at the same time, total of 9. So you can have all of these programs are just kind of there. But the ones which are running at the time, we're going to say it was auto evade, it was return fire, and it was target. Okay, we're just going to say it was those 3. The Phineas Javelin can move, but it's also going to do some return fire, and it also has a target running at the same time. So we're just going to assume that's what's going on here. Since it has auto evade, it has a -2. And that's going to be better than the maneuver evade if you were running a maneuver evade, because the pilot, we're just going to assume both of them have pilots. Both of the pilots have pilot 1 skill, so it wouldn't have been anything for it. So it's better just to run the auto evade and take that -2. Okay, so the Suleiman, the S-type over here, he's going to be targeting the Phineas Javelin. Remember, we've already added up the defense and the attack DMs. You got a +1 on the attack and a -2 on the defense. So it's going to be a -1 altogether. So we're going to go over here. We're going to put 2 dice. Remember, it is an 8+ that he has to roll to hit. It's going to be a -1 here. And we're going to roll and see if the Suleiman hits the Phineas. Oh gosh, that is the absolute worst that you can get, huh? That would be a 1. So that just does not happen. And now we go to return fire. Remember, he has return laser fire. He has that program running. So the Phineas Javelin can go ahead and return fire. Now the Phineas Javelin only has target running. So it's only going to be a straight roll. Doesn't have any programs that's going to help it in terms of giving it a positive DM. So we're just going to be rolling 2d6, trying to get an 8+. But if you remember, oh yeah, the Phineas Javelin has double turrets. So we're going to be rolling twice to hit the Suleiman Type S. So let's roll 1 and see what happens. Uh-oh. That's 1 hit for the Phineas Javelin. Let's roll the other. Oh boy. Oh boy. So the Phineas Javelin gets 2 hits on the Type S Scout. Ouch. And we're going to find out what happens in terms of the damage in the next video. So how we're going to do this here is we're just going to go through one game turn sequence, because basically what happens is that the roles get switched in the second part of the game turn sequence, right? So the intruder becomes the native and the native becomes the intruder. And that's it. So we're only just going to go through one side of that. So we're just going through the intruder and the native part, and we're not going to do the other side because it's simple. Just switch them around for the next part of it, and that's it. If you got any value out of this video today, then could you do me a solid? Just crush the like button. And for the one individual who comes to my channel to downvote me, do your thing. I'm sorry. Oh, that is so pathetic and hilarious at the same time. I have one person who comes and downvotes all of my videos. Oh man, it just makes me laugh every time I think about it. Every time I look at my analytics and I happen to see it, because I don't check that all of the time, but I happen to see it, I think it is hilarious. I was just talking to my wife about it. I couldn't stop laughing. I was crying. It makes me laugh. I'm sorry that I have taken up free rent space in somebody's head and bother them that much that they gotta be subscribed. I do not understand. It's hilarious. All right, I went way off on that one. If you guys want to stick around and you want to, actually support me, then go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. I come out with videos every Tuesday and Friday. God, I'm sorry, God willing. Oh man, I'm sorry. Let's get to the question of the vid. All right, we get into space combat. So let me know, what is your favorite space combat that you've seen in maybe a video game or a film or television or anything? What's their favorite? What episode? What show? Let us know down in the comments below. Let's get some engagement going. All right, y'all. That's gonna be it for me. I'm sorry. I just think it's hilarious. Oh, that's gonna be it for me. Let a brother go ahead and do his snag-a-puss.
So exit, station F.
You got a game this weekend? Happy gaming. I got mine, y'all. Looking forward to it. Got something going on with the One Ring, and we got this new saga going on with my campaign. We just kind of shifted into things. I am looking forward to this. But if you got one, happy gaming. I pray it is an RPG elite session. Until next time, God willing, you know what a brother's got to do. I got to catch ya on the flip and say peace. 5,000 leaks. I am outie.